Good afternoon and welcome to the November 7th Public Works meeting for the City of Kent. I am Chair Brenda Fincher. I have with me Councilmember Seth Winter-Core, Councilmember Marley Larimer, Director Chad Bieren, and Cheryl Visef is making sure that everything is set for the record. With that, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
No changes to the agenda, then we are ready for a motion.
Chair, I move to accept the minutes from October 3rd, 2022.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the October 3rd minutes. All in favor? Aye. It was moved and approved, and we are now on to Sean Bauer, who is going to talk to us about our water treatment chemical supply and goods agreement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Good afternoon. Thank you for your time today. I'm Sean Bauer, Water System Manager for the City of Kent. In October of every year, we advertise for bids for our water treatment chemical supplies for the upcoming year. Today, I'm here with a contract between the City of Kent and Northstar Chemical Incorporated for the supply of sodium hydroxide and sodium hypochlorite. Sodium hydroxide is used in the water treatment process to raise the pH level of the water to make it less corrosive on pipes, equipment, and household plumbing fixtures. And sodium hypochlorite, which is just a stronger form of bleach, is used in the treatment process to oxidize iron and manganese for the removal process, as well as disinfect the water supply and protect it while it's in the distribution system. Chemical costs have increased over the past few years as a result of natural disasters and raw material shortages that have been impacting manufacturing. So this year's cost, just like last year, up again. We're up about 56% over 2022 for next year. So with that, I have a motion to approve our contract with Northstar Chemical Incorporated and would be willing to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Well, with that, I am ready for a motion.
Chair, I move to authorize the mayor to sign the 2023 water treatment chemical supply agreement with Northstar Chemical Inc. for water treatment supply chemicals in an amount not to exceed $217,520, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney and public works director.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Well, with that, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes. So it has passed, and we will be getting those chemicals, and this is part of the reason we don't have the problems that we see in some of the other parts of the country. We've heard of water supply problems still today, people having to use bottled water, in some cases not even being able to shower or wash their hands in the water. So, yeah, the cost, wish we could do something about that rising cost, but it is necessary for safety. So now we're on to King County Flood Control District, the Cooperative Watershed Management Grant, and Rowena and Margaret.
Good afternoon, council members, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to meet you, to see you again today. Yeah, so I'm Rowena Valencia-Gica. I'm Environmental Supervisor at the Public Works Engineering, and today Margaret and I will be talking about two separate projects that have recently received some funding from the King County Flood Control District's Cooperative Watershed Management Grant. So, second slide, please. Okay, so the two projects are the Habitat Area A, which is part of the Lower Russell Levee project in the amount of $200,000, and the other one is the Mill Creek Canyon Riparian Revegetation project in the amount of nearly $90,000. So not long ago, you may remember that we presented this project to you. Let me begin with the Habitat Area A. So in March of this year, we presented this project to you. Next slide, please. Sorry. In March of this year, we presented this project to you regarding our applications for the Cooperative Watershed Management Grant, as well as the Puget Sound Acquisition and Restoration Grant. And King County informed us that this project had already been approved to receive funding from both grants. And more recently, King County sent us an interlocal agreement so that the city can receive the total funding of nearly $290,000. So just to refresh your memory about what Habitat Area A project is like back please. Yeah. So Habitat Area A used to be part of the large capital PSAR project, but it was amended out at the request of King County. So it is a Tier 1 in the Salmon Habitat Plan update, which I believe you are all familiar with. And the goal of Habitat Area A, actually, there are at least 5 of them. It is intended to address flood risk and also the limited fish rearing habitat along the Green River. And also there's a lack of habitat complexity, and there's the problem on temperature loading and also invasive species control. So what we're planning to do is to construct a large off-channel habitat area, approximately 5.7 acres, and this will be achieved by grading and reshaping the river bank, excavating low benches, installing large wood structures, and also planting native vegetation. So in that picture, Habitat Area A will look similar, very similar to Habitat Area B.
Rowena, sorry to interrupt, but could you describe what's going on in Habitat Area B versus A? I mean, we showed the picture of B, and I think it'd be good for folks to understand.
Yes, so both Habitat Area A and Habitat Area B will be both off-channel habitats, and I will be describing in the next slides what we are going to do with Habitat Area A, and that's exactly what they're doing with Habitat Area B. And this is all intended to make sure that the juvenile salmon will have rearing and refuge areas, especially during high flows, events in the Green River.
If I could also add to that, just briefly, the King County Flood Control District has the Lower Russell Road project, which we should have open here in the next probably 3 to 5 months. They have some finishing touches they need to put on it. Excuse me. Habitat Area B was part of the permitting for the project. Habitat Area A was also. We agreed that the city would try and, similar to what we've done with the Downey Farmstead restoration, Habitat Area A is an opportunity for us to provide more habitat in the river. Habitat Area B was required for the permitting of the flood control that's provided by the Lower Russell Road levee. So it's another avenue for us to provide additional habitat, and we can do it through grant funding means, just like we've done with the Downey project. So this is step 1. Rowena and Margaret have gone out there and worked to get the grant from the county. We're going to spend the first $200,000 to do this design, which she'll describe. But that'll put us in line to move forward with more requests.
Thank you, Chad, for that additional information. Next slide, please. So the location of this project, as Chad already mentioned, is in the Green River Natural Resources area. It will be just downstream of the old Van Doren's Park, and it's at Green River Mile 18.0 to 18.3. What makes this location ideal, in addition to the area, the GRNRA being already owned by the city, is because it provides some connectivity between this project as well as the existing wetlands and natural areas already existing in the GRNRA. In terms of scope, this grant will be used to fund the additional environmental studies that we need to conduct, such as the alternatives analysis, the wetlands design, hydrogeological study, additional cultural resources survey, as well as geotechnical studies. And all of these are intended to inform the refinements that we need for the 60% design. So the project will be at around 60% design when King County transfers it to the city. And the grant will also fund the continued stakeholder coordination that the city will be doing with the Habitat Work Group that King County already formed as part of the initial work on the Habitat Area A. And this grant will also allow us to start the permitting process for this project. So let me take this opportunity to provide you some updates on the Lower Russell Levee project. During the Cultural Resources Survey conducted for the levee project, a barn called the Dvorak Barn was identified within the footprints of the project area, and it was deemed historic. So demolition constitutes significant historic impacts if we do that. So what was decided is that to just relocate that barn also within the GRNRA area, and it's now close to the new Van Doren's Landing Park. But that action also required us to construct this access road, as you can see there, between the barn and also the nursery. And in the process, this impacted the buffer of the wetlands existing in that area. So we had to mitigate for that impacts. And the mitigation planting had already been completed. And so far, our first year monitoring last summer showed that the plants are thriving really well. Now, let me talk about the new Van Doren's Landing Park. This project is now about 85% complete, and if you look at this picture, you can already see that much of it has been completed, and it looks really beautiful, at least in my opinion. And so inauguration of this project will be happening soon, and we will keep you posted about that. Okay, so another aspect of the Lower Russell Levee project, as mentioned earlier, is the Habitat Area B. So it's still under construction right now, but much of it has been installed, including the engineered log jams, as shown in this picture. So similar to other off-channel habitats, maybe you have been to Liber, to Downey, Riverview, engineered log jams will provide some additional fishery ring habitat for the juvenile salmon. And also part of this project is the installation of native plantings. And I'd like to point out that one unique feature of the Habitat Area B is the inclusion of the walking trails construction so that the public can have access to the natural habitats within this area for recreation. That's all for the Habitat Area A, and do you have any questions at this point?
Nope.
Okay, so I'll be, if that's the case, I'll be handing the mic to Margaret so she can talk about the next project.
Cool. Yeah, nice. Thank you for advancing that. My name's Margaret. I'm actually from the Parks Department, which is when I usually see you, when I have here. Parks Operations. This is coming to you tonight because we both independently submitted grant applications to the same entity, pot of money coming from King County. This chunk will be coming to Parks, but it's all going through the same process, and happy to give you guys the update. We requested a chunk of change from this Ryan 9 grant process for the sake of mostly removing invasives like knotweed and blackberry from the riparian corridor through the lower portion of Mill Creek Canyon. The intention then, after those invasives are removed, is to go in there and do some replanting, either with staff or hopefully some volunteers. This grant is a 3-year period, and if anybody knows knotweed, it's a long game, so this will be a first first go at ecological restoration through this area. Not saying we're going to have it all done with this grant, but it'll be a good start and a chance for us to leverage some funding to a site that, as I'm sure you all know, has taken plenty of city resources recently for other reasons. So really about our investing in the area and doing some ecological uplift. I think there's one more slide about the canyon. There we go. So linear feet of creek, about 3,000 linear feet of creek we will hopefully be tackling once we get in there and see how knotweed treatment is going. That will really dictate how much of the area is available for replanting within the timeline of this grant, because we need to make sure we have some control over those invasives before we go in there and invest a lot in plant material. The intention is to improve habitat in the park itself, but then also downstream. Knotweed is a species that will move downstream by root fragment. So typically it's one of these species where it's really important to start at what you think is the top and move down. So we see this as improving the area that we manage, but then also protecting downstream habitat. Mill Creek is a potentially salmonid bearing trib to the Green River by way of the Black River pump station in a very circuitous manner. And so we're also looking at benefiting native fish populations in the area and getting some volunteers out there planting plants to boot. So that's pretty much it, keeping it brief because once again, Public Works Committee and Parks person, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free.
Questions or comments?
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And if there are no questions or comments, we're ready for a vote.
Great. Chair, I move to authorize the mayor to sign the King County Cooperative Watershed Management Grant Agreement in the amount of $289,941, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works and Parks Directors and City Attorney.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the King County Cooperative Watershed Management Grant Agreement, and for approximately $290,000. All in favor?
Aye.
It has been moved and passed, so $289,941 is the amount, and that will be passed on to the council. Thank you. Now we're going to hear about our compost agreement from Tony Dahl. Compost Procurement Board.
That's right. Hi, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Tony Donati. I'm the Conservation Coordinator here in the Public Works Department. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to introduce you to this compost procurement ordinance and have you adopt it, hopefully at the end. The next slide, if you could there. Yeah, this is a part of the newly signed House Bill 1799, which is an organic materials management law. Next slide. Yep. This bill was passed earlier this year and was championed by a few representatives, one of which is Kent's own Mona Das. This bill establishes two statewide goals. The first one is to reduce the disposal of organic materials into statewide landfills by 75% by the year 2030. And then the second goal is to increase edible food recovery by 20% by the year 2025. And these are relative to the year 2015. Currently, it's estimated that roughly 25%, 25% of what's going into the landfills throughout the state are organic materials. And so that's basically food waste, yard waste, clean wood, etc. Next slide, please. The bill requires governments with more than 25,000 people to provide organic recycling services, so like curbside pickup, and requires larger businesses to divert food waste as well. We're talking grocery stores, hospitals, hotels. Additionally, the bill establishes a new Washington Center for Sustainable Food Management operated within the Department of Ecology. and then requires all local governments, 25,000 people or more, to adopt a compost procurement ordinance. Next slide. So this ordinance needs to be adopted by these governments, jurisdictions by the new year. And the ordinance is requires the cities to use and purchase compost for various projects such as landscaping, soil amendments, erosion prevention, and low impact development. Finally, cities must educate residents on the importance of compost use. And then we have to report how we're using compost in our operations to the Department of Ecology. So these activities support local compost producers because we're creating a demand for new compost. This is really important because this bill is taking organics out of state landfills and providing it to compost creators. So they're taking a material, giving it, and creating a new product. And then this ordinance creates a demand for that new product. So we're creating a circular economy, which is ideal for any recycling situation. So with that, I can take any questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Tony, for this presentation. I think it's a great bill. Just out of curiosity, how much does it cost us, and was there any funding attached to this bill? Like, what are they going to give city governments anything to?
So, yeah, right. So there may be some room for grants in there, but I can definitely double check that and make sure what kind of opportunities the state is providing. Yeah, the goal again, right, is to just divert food waste. We're creating less into the garbage, landfill, creating this new product, and then closing that loop by purchasing it back.
No, I get it. I completely support it. I'm just curious.
Sure.
Like, I wish they, would give us some funding to do better and more. So.
Yeah, I can add to that, Tony. We have asked Tony to try and look for grants to help take care of defray some of the costs that are coming along with the bill, but there were no funding sources provided with the bill. So this is a mandate that we're having to pick up. The reporting requirement, we don't fully understand the impact yet because we'll have a reporting requirement tied to our in-house projects as well as our contracts with outside contractors for our larger projects. So that one's a little bit easier. We can track it. It's another item that we're not getting paid to track, but at least we can report on it. But the internal one, we'll have to do a little bit more working to get some measurements on what's being diverted. Again, totally agree with the intent of the bill. Would have been nice to have some money to pay for the additional time the city staff will need to use to administer the program.
Unfunded mandates are always hard when you already have a budget and then you have to squeeze those in.
Yeah.
And it's a must that you squeeze those in.
Yep.
No choice about it. Other questions? What is the plan for educating the public?
Yeah, so Cedar Grove is basically one of the larger compost producers in King County. That's where all of our residents' organic material goes, picked up by Republic Services and dropped off at the Cedar Grove facility in Maple Valley. And so from there, right, they do, and you saw it in my slide earlier, they do annual promotion. They'll give coupons. They'll say if you buy 5 yards, you can get X amount, maybe another yard free or whatever their promotions are. They offer coupons. If you're not buying that much in bulk, if you buy 1 bag or so, you can get so many bags. So we can definitely help promote that. We can put some education up on our websites. We can put it through social media. So there's a variety of ways we can educate people on the benefits of compost.
People have asked about buying the compost bins for their homes, so I've recommended them to KCD. Is there a source through the city, and is that source on our website?
Are you talking about the countertop containers?
No, the larger ones that they can put in the backyard.
Oh, just to create backyard compost. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of different things online where people can even build their own. They can purchase them. There's all sorts of them online. I'm not sure, we don't have funding for people to go buy those, but we do have a lot of kitchen countertop containers, like I brought up, that we are ready to distribute as well.
The little green ones?
Yes.
Okay. And that's on our website. I think I've seen that
Yes.
before. Okay. We are ready for a motion.
Chair, I move to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 3.70 of the Kent City Code to add a new section 3.70.055 entitled Procurement of Compost to comply with the new state law requiring the city to plan for the use of compost in its projects.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the ordinance requiring the procurement of compost to meet the new state law. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion has carried, and that will move on to the council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Now Chad Bieren, our director, is going to be telling us about the 2022 asphalt overlay traffic calming change order.
Yeah, this is a request for a change order to help complete some traffic calming projects. Committee's heard from Eric Preston, who heads up our traffic calming program, a number of times about the neighborhoods that they've been working with. And as the year goes on, they're able to identify neighborhoods where additional measures are, we'll say qualified, where they qualify for additional measures to go out there with speed bumps or radar speed signs or raised crosswalks, something to help slow traffic or to try and get traffic from not cutting through neighborhoods. In general, we're trying to get these projects into their own individual contract where we would go out and get bids for the projects. But from time to time, during the year, a project will come up. It'll make itself available to us, and we'll try and add it on to an existing project as we see fit. And in this case, we'd like to add 2 sets of speed bumps to, and actually there's some other facilities, but some raised crosswalks, some speed bumps, and then additional signage at a couple of neighborhoods, principally one called the Bridges neighborhood. This is south of Willis and west of Central, where we've talked about this neighborhood where we closed a couple alleys recently through council action, vacated alleys. Same neighborhood, we feel it would be helpful to have some traffic calming in there in the form of speed bumps. And then also we've overlaid the main arterial that runs on the east side of Lake Meridian, where the boat launch and the main entrance to Lake Meridian Park are. We'd like to add a raised crosswalk out there and some speed bumps to help reduce speeds and hopefully reduce some of the cut-through traffic. We're at the limit of the mayor's authority for change orders, so we're coming back to council through committee to get approval to do that sooner rather than later. So the request is for an additional, the additional cost to get the traffic calming measures done under this contract.
Questions, comments?
No?
Okay, did you have any questions? Okay, and that additional is going to be using the B&O funds and the solid waste utility funds. We are ready for a motion.
Chair, I move to authorize payment of additional costs in excess of the mayor's authority for the contract with Lakeside Industries, Inc. to complete the 2022 asphalt overlays, including additional traffic calming measures, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign those contracts with Lakeside Industries to complete the 2022 asphalt overlays. All in favor?
Aye.
Has been moved and has been approved, and that too will move on to council agenda. Thank you very much. And now,
Madam Chair, could I add one clarifying statement? And I realize there's a mistake in my, you said it correctly, and in saying it, I realize there's a little mistake in my memo. I call it the Solid Waste Utility Fund. It should be the Solid Waste Utility Tax Fund. The Solid Waste Utility Fund funds other items. We also have the Solid Waste Utility Tax, which is used for the residential overlays and includes some money for traffic calming. So just for clarify.
Thank you for that clarification. That will make our legal department happy. Okay, Melissa, you're going to be talking to us about our SubRegional Opportunity Fund.
Yes. So, hello, council members, committee president, welcome, or thank you. My name is Melissa Dahl. I'm an engineer in the Public Works Design Engineering Group, and I'm here to introduce you to the King County Flood Control District King County Flood Control District SubRegional Opportunity Fund. I will likely refer to it as the SubRegional Opportunity Fund moving ahead. It's a little bit of a mouthful. And specifically where we've applied for that fund to support work along James Street for the Storm Drainage Improvements Project. So the picture you see on the screen right now is a picture of James Street on the eastbound lanes post-flooding. I believe it was taken in November of last year, so pretty much a year to the date. And you'll see quite a few more of these pictures for reference. So I want to provide a little bit of context to what the SubRegional Opportunity Fund is. It is specifically funding, it's not a grant, so we will make sure to not refer to it as a grant. It is a fund. The source of the fund is that every year the Flood Control District acquires funding through the district's levy proceeds, and then every year they take its 10.23% of that funds and they reallocate it to all of the appropriate districts and agencies. So the City of Kent, we get a specific percentage every year. This year we get around $225,000. It's money that the city, it's our money specifically, it's our funds, we don't have to argue for it, we don't have to fight for it. We get that, but they want to make sure that we're spending that money in accordance with goals and missions of the fund. So specifically they advocate for the fund to be used for flood improvements, stormwater control, and watershed management programs. So we applied for that at the end of last month, and we applied for it under what we call the James Street Storm Drainage Improvements Project. And so I'll elaborate on that a little bit further, but again, we have another picture of James Street during flood events. That was taken in December of 2019. And the reason I keep showing this specific area of James Street is because one of the ongoing issues we've noticed out on James Street during flooding is we do experience flooding on the road, complete closure of the road during high water events. But one of the things we've noticed through years of monitoring it is that as the water continues to recede off the road through the help of our pump station, through just natural receding, we end up getting a lane closure of the southernmost eastbound lane of James Street. The reason we want to highlight that, and the reason I've shared all these pictures, is that all the pictures have showed clear sunny days. You'll notice it's not the rain event, it's beyond the rain event. And so we continue to have road closure impacts on one of the major arterials of the city post-flooding. And so we're continuing to work through large-scale flood-related projects like the Mill Creek Reestablishment Project, like the Mill Creek Culvert Cleaning projects we have. This is addressing an issue that happens post-flooding. So we applied to support that project from the SubRegional Opportunity Fund. Right now, we'd be proposing to use that funding for the design and then hopefully the permitting and hopefully some of the construction. The reason this might sound a little familiar to you is that back in June, we did come to you with a previous grant, also through the Flood Control District. It was known as the Flood Reduction Grant. We applied for grant funding from them for this project. Fortunately, we did not receive that funding, but we are making sure to use the money that we do know we will have to continue to move this project ahead. So the picture on the left is, again, James Street, and that was taken in January 8th of this year, so it's fairly recent in the scheme of things. And then the picture on the right is actually Mill Creek Middle School. It's a schematic that we put together to kind of highlight what we're specifically talking about. So all the pictures you've seen it shows that the flooding is taking place on the southernmost eastbound lane of James Street. So when that happens, there's enough standing water there that it's not safe for vehicles to use that road, or that lane specifically. So we do close just that lane, but we still allow traffic through, but it really hinders the flow of traffic in that area. It becomes a little bit of a choke point. So the long-term goals of the James Street Storm Drainage Improvement Project is not to completely alleviate flooding on James Street. We have other projects that are moving that ahead, but it's to help support that specific flooding area being drained quicker, and so it's more efficient, because right now it takes a while to get to that point. So, as I mentioned, we've previously brought that to your attention back in June. Unfortunately, we don't always get every grant we apply for, but we are going to receive the funding through the SubRegional Opportunity Fund. So once we get that agreement through, we'll be coming back to share that with you as well. And we'll continue to provide updates on the Mill Creek Reestablishment Project and Mill Creek Culvert Cleaning Project in the near future. This picture is another one taken in January of this year. And then that is everything I have right now. Did you have any questions for me?
I have no questions.
No?
Councilmember Kaur?
Thank you, Melissa. Just out of curiosity, so what do we plan on using that funding for? Do we have like a scope of project exactly, or?
Yeah, and I could talk a little bit about some of the things that we're considering right now. The biggest issue that we're working to, or the biggest problem, so to say, that we're working to resolve with this is we're trying to figure out, we have a great pump station. The pump station does do a very good job of helping to get the water off the road faster than it historically did before the pump station. And we're trying to find ways to improve the connectivity of that stretch of road to the pump station. And so right now, if you go out there on a dry day, I believe we have about one catch basin that's out there. And so we need to actually go out and model what would be the best circumstance there. And that's stuff that requires funding. So we need to make sure we have the money to actually model something that we know is going to work, rather than just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. We want to make sure that we're producing something that's going to solve this issue. So the funding would be going towards design, it would be going towards modeling efforts, it would be going towards as much of construction as we can. Because we haven't figured out exactly what would happen out there, we don't have a cost estimate associated with it, but we'll try and carry that as far as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we happen to know how many days a year, even though it may not be a full day, how many days a year we do close James, at least that lane, because of rain?
I don't have that number offhand, but I do know that in our operations department, they do track that information. They're the ones who actually go out and make the call. And so they keep track of that information and provide it to the Drive Kent reporting. And so we have information on that. I can get it and follow up with you on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to add to that, we don't have information before the pump station was put in place. I mean, it just becomes anecdotal. But we know it's a lot less than it was, and because the durations are so much shorter, we're able to take the pump station and move the water down to the south end of the city and get it out of there.
Interesting to see how many now. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Then we are ready. Well, in fact, we don't have a motion on that. That was information only.
Nice and easy.
Yes. So with that, if there are no questions, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.